Okay. So have you ever, like, really looked at a neon sign and thought, how they actually do that?
It's a process for sure.
Turns out it's just like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Right.
We're we're doing a deep dive into the world of sign making today, and
Mm.
trust me, it's way more than just paint and plywood.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's a field that kind of bridges the gap between art and function,
Right.
tradition and technology, you could say.
Totally. Like, we've got a stack of info here from RoleCatcher,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, I'm already seeing things that surprise me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the sheer variety of what falls under sign-making flyers,
Right.
traffic signs, even those massive billboards you can spot a mile away. It's like you're practically surrounded by their work.
And it's that very scope that makes it so fascinating, right? You could be creating like a hand-painted masterpiece for a local bistro one day, then tackling a complex digital billboard design the next.
I never would have thought about the range, but
Yeah.
it totally makes sense. But hold on. I'm seeing here that a deep understanding of materials is super important. What is that like? What does that actually look like in practice?
So it's about knowing what's going to last
Right.
in what conditions. Right. Think
Right.
about it. A weathered wooden sign might be perfect for, like, a rustic cafe, but you'd need something far more durable for a billboard.
Right.
Facing the elements day in and day out, like a high-grade,
Yeah.
UV-resistant vinyl.
Wow. So it's like material science
Yeah.
meets design.
It is.
That's so cool. And speaking of unexpected challenges, this role catcher guide emphasizes that sign makers often handle the installation themselves.
They do, yeah.
Is it really that hands-on?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not unusual for sign makers to be on-site, like hoisting signs onto buildings, even working on scaffolding for large installations.
Really?
I once spoke with a sign maker who had to rappel down the side of a building to install a banner.
Whoa.
Talk about a unique office view.
Okay, heights aren't my thing. But I can see the appeal, right? There's a real sense of bringing a vision to life, like literally building it from the ground up.
Exactly, and that's where those problem-solving skills come in, you know? You might have to adjust on the fly, modify designs to fit unforeseen structural challenges.
Yeah.
It's a career that keeps you on your toes, for sure.
For sure.
Right.
That blend of creativity and practicality is fascinating. But let's talk technology. I'm seeing a lot about how technology is changing the game in sign making.
Oh, absolutely. You're just as likely to find a sign maker behind a computer screen as you are a workbench these days.
Wow. So we're talking about more than just like designing on a computer, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the tech landscape actually like these days?
Well, mastery design software,
Okay.
particularly the Adobe Creative Suite, think Illustrator or Photoshop, those are key players, is practically a given now,
Right.
but it goes beyond that.
Okay.
We're talking CNC routers, carving intricate designs, large format printers churning out massive graphics,
Wow.
and of course, the whole world of digital signage.
Okay, yeah. Digital signage that feels huge GE right now.
Oh, it is.
What's like particularly noteworthy there?
It's not just those giant LED screens in Times Square anymore.
Right,
We're talking interactive displays,
Of course.
touchscreen kiosks, even projection mapping that turns buildings into works of art.
Projection mapping. That's wild.
It is pretty amazing, yeah.
So you're not just designing a static image, you might be creating like entire animated sequences.
Yeah,
Interactive elements.
exactly.
That's wild.
And for those drawn to both the artistic and technical sides, it's an incredibly exciting field to be in.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between making a beautiful painting and like orchestrating a whole light show.
It's a perfect analogy.
Wow.
And it highlights how sign making is evolving from like a trade into a high-tech art form.
Right. It's like mind-blowing to think how much technology has like totally transformed this whole field.
It has, yeah.
But with all this cutting-edge tech, is there still a place for like traditional craftsmanship in sign making?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a case of one replacing the other. It's more like they complement each other.
Right.
A sign maker who can combine the precision of digital design with the handcrafted touch of, say, like hand-painted lettering or custom neon work.
Yeah.
That's a rare and valuable skill set.
Totally. It's like the difference between like a mass-produced print and a one-of-a-kind piece of art, right?
Exactly.
Both have their place, but that human touch
Right.
adds something special.
It does, yeah. And that's something that RoleCatcher highlights too, actually, the importance of continuous learning.
Okay.
Even if you start out with a strong foundation in traditional techniques, you need to be adaptable.
Right.
always open to learning new software, new materials, new ways of doing
It
things.
sounds like I'd never stop learning in this field.
Pretty much, yeah.
What's a good way to, like, stay ahead of the curve?
Industry certifications are a great place to start.
Okay.
They not only demonstrate your expertise to potential employers,
Right.
but the process of preparing for these certifications often exposes you to the latest trends and technologies.
So it's not just about checking a box.
Right.
It's about actively pushing yourself to stay current.
Precisely. It's a commitment to professional development, really.
Yeah.
And that thirst for knowledge is essential because,
Yeah.
as RoleCatcher points out, the skills needed in sign making go way beyond just design and technology.
Okay.
For instance, did you know that a good understanding of basic construction principles can be a huge asset?
You're kidding. What does construction have to do with sign making?
Well, imagine you're installing a large illuminated sign on the side of a building, right? You need to understand weight distribution, structural support,
Right.
even wind load to make sure that sign is going to be safe and secure.
So you're like, it's like you're not just creating a sign.
Right.
You're practically engineering a small-scale building project.
You got it. And that's where those unexpected skills come into play.
Speaking of unexpected skills, I noticed RoleCatcher also mentioned the importance of customer service.
Yes.
That seems a bit counterintuitive for what many might perceive as, like, a solitary craft.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, it's more collaborative than you might think.
Okay.
Sign making is all about communication.
Right.
And that involves understanding your client's needs, translating their vision into a tangible design,
Right.
and sometimes navigating those tricky waters of client feedback and revisions.
I bet that's where, like, patience comes in handy.
More than you can imagine. You might have a client who knows exactly what they want, which is great,
Right.
but you also might encounter those who are full of ideas but struggle to articulate them clearly, right?
Right.
It's your job to listen carefully, ask the right questions, and guide them towards a design that not only meets their needs, but also functions effectively as a sign.
So it's like being a design therapist,
Yeah.
helping clients bring their vision to life in a way that makes sense for their business and resonates with their target audience.
That's a great way to put it. And it brings us to another critical aspect highlighted by RoleCatcher,
Okay.
the career progression within this field.
I'm actually really curious about this. I imagine there's a lot of room for growth, especially as you gain experience and expertise.
Right.
What does that trajectory typically look like?
Well, it often starts with entry-level positions, maybe assisting experienced sign makers,
Right.
prepping materials, getting a feel for the different aspects of the trade.
Okay.
This is where you're building a foundation, mastering the basics.
So from there, you'd move on to more independent roles.
Exactly. You might become a junior sign maker, taking on more responsibility, handling your own projects, perhaps specializing in a particular type of sign making, like vehicle wraps
Oh, wow.
or architectural signage.
So you can really start to, like, hone your skills and develop a niche within the field at that stage.
Absolutely. And as you continue to build your portfolio, gain experience, and take on leadership roles,
Right.
you might eventually become a senior sign maker.
Okay, so now we're talking about, like, the top of their game, right?
Right.
What sets a senior sign maker apart?
They're not just masters of their craft. They're also leaders, mentors, and problem solvers.
Wow.
They might oversee entire projects from design to installation, manage teams of sign makers,
That way?
or even become sought-after consultants for their expertise.
It sounds like the possibilities are, like, endless, really.
They really are, yeah.
Wow.
But let's be realistic. RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from the less glamorous aspects of the job either.
Right. It can't all be neon lights and, like, creative brainstorming sessions, right?
Right. We've talked about the creativity, the technology, the problem solving.
Right.
But there's also the potential for long hours, tight deadlines, and the occasional, demanding client.
It's good to have, like, a realistic picture, right?
It is, yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect job.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And in sign making, you're often like working with your hands, dealing with heavy materials, sometimes facing challenging weather conditions on outdoor installations. It's not for everyone,
Right.
but it certainly builds character.
For sure. You might be trading, like, a comfy office chair for a sturdy pair of work boots.
Right.
But for those who thrive on that kind of hands-on work, it must be, like, incredibly rewarding to see a project from design to physical installation.
It is.
Right.
Absolutely. And there's a real sense of satisfaction in knowing that you're creating something tangible, right? Something that will be a part of, the
Right.
world around us. Think about the signs you see every day, the ones that guide you, inform you, maybe even inspire you.
You're right. Signs are like such a ubiquitous part of our visual landscape.
Yeah.
Yet we rarely stop to think about the skill and craftsmanship
Right.
that goes into creating them.
Yeah. It's easy to overlook, but when you start to pay attention, you realize how much thought goes into every detail, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The choice of materials, the typography, the placement,
Yeah.
it's all about communicating a message effectively and aesthetically.
Totally. It's like those optical illusions where you only see the hidden image once someone points it out to you.
Right.
And then suddenly you start noticing all these subtle details
Yeah.
in signs that you never would have before.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes this career so fascinating, right?
Well-
It's a blend of artistry, technical skill,
Yeah.
and a deep understanding of how people perceive visual information.
Totally. You're not just creating a sign.
Right.
You're crafting an experience.
Precisely. And that brings us back to RoleCatcher's advice.
Okay.
For those considering this career path,
That was it.
don't just, read about it, experience it,
Right.
seek out shadowing opportunities, talk to sign makers, get a feel for the day-to-day realities of the job.
Mhm. Yeah. It's one thing to admire a beautifully crafted sign. It's another to understand the work and passion that went into creating it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes seeing the process firsthand is all it takes to spark that aha moment.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
And who knows, you might just discover a hidden talent and passion for this, dynamic and surprisingly complex field.
Totally. It's like we always say, sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most fulfilling destinations.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of sign making, I have to say, I'm walking away with a whole new appreciation for the craft.
Yeah, me too.
It's a fascinating blend of art, technology, and good old-fashioned hard work. And who knew it involved so much problem-solving and client psychology?
Right. It's a hidden gem of a career, really. And as technology continues to evolve, who knows what exciting innovations will shape the future of sign making.
Right.
One thing's for sure, though, those who choose this path will never be bored.
Absolutely. It's a field that demands creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to constantly learn and evolve. So for those of you out there who are intrigued by the idea of turning ideas into tangible, eye-catching realities, maybe sign making is the perfect canvas for you.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought.
Yeah.
Next time you're walking down the street, take a moment to really see the signs around you.
Mm.
Pay attention to the details, the craftsmanship, the way they capture your attention and communicate a message. You might be surprised by how much beauty and ingenuity you've been overlooking.